whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, and antics inside, outside the octagon. But Conor McGregor is the #1 paid athlete of the year. And what makes it more important to me is the fact that he said he was going to do that. And they showed you that video of him and Ronaldo when they first met. And I think Conor was like 35 on the list at the time. Ronaldo was #1 as usual. And they were talking, and Conor was like, yeah, man, I'm getting there. I'll be there one day. I'm going to get to the top. And then like he did it. And that's the same as a lot of things he's done since he got in the UFC in his first couple fights and spent all of his money on suits, like in between his fights. I mean, this is a guy who really has done almost everything that he set out to do in his career. And here he is now as the highest paid, because of obviously this Proper 12, but he's the highest paid athlete on the planet for this last 12 months. It's pretty incredible, huh?
It is, but at the same time, I think it kind of almost devalues his business acumen. I got into a conversation about this on Twitter with a few people, because the headline is that he's the highest paid athlete, but he's the highest earning athlete
because of the Proper 12.
Like he's not paid higher than the rest of the guys around him. He's the highest earning because of his business decisions, and this is something else that a lot of fighters can learn from. You've got to be promotable inside there. You've got to be marketable, but you've also got to know the game and know the business. And Conor's been very smart in all of the other things he's done, the extracurricular activities of the whiskey business. And like, imagine if John Jones had started a beer company or a vodka company or something. He might be in a similar situation.
Especially Jones, an alcohol company. That would have been
Exactly,
he could have really promoted that early in his career.
Down the bad boy route.
Yeah.
But like these are opportunities are available for anybody that's good at marketing themselves within the sport. They've kind of got to back themselves.
Yeah.
And you always knew that Conor McGregor was a good businessman by how interested Lorenzo was around him.
Yeah.
Obviously Lorenzo's not around the UFC anymore, but he was fascinated by McGregor.
Yeah.
And that must be because of the conversations that they had in private, one-on-one.
Wow.
There were always photos of him drinking whiskey with loads of cash. I bet McGregor was backing himself constantly in those early fights. And Lorenzo's like, I like this kid. He's got balls.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of his spark as well. Some people are just unique like that. But highest earning is a lot more down to his business than highest paid down to his fighting ability. I mean, he's still an anomaly in the UFC at 22 million, in 12 months. That's crazy. That's what John Jones is wanting,
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that this is a one-time thing, so a lot of people don't realize that. It's not like he's going to beat Ronaldo and Messi and those guys next year. I mean, this isn't a consistent thing. Those guys make consistent money in the 100 million range, every single year, whereas this was a one-time sell of his company, and he doesn't have another company that big. He has the McGregor Fast and stuff like that. So this was a one-time thing, I think, where he's going to be in the #1 spot or even close to it. So it's not like he's doing this all the time, but it is interesting and cool to just kind of see an MMA fighter just for the sake of us being MMA fighters, coming from like fighting on Indian casinos with like tap out selling shirts out of their trunk of their car back when I was coming out, or coming up back in, the early 2000s. Late 99s, actually, 98, 99, when I started fighting amateur. So it's a big progression, to see him on the cover of Forbes as the highest paid athlete, So I just thought that was pretty cool. And hats off to him for that.
For sure. It shines a light on MMA, and that's good for everybody. Every time he fights, it more than doubles the pay-per-view buys. And they're not only watching McGregor fight, even if they're just casually watching the undercard as it's happening or the rest of the main card, they might see, they'll remember Sean O'Malley because he's got rainbow hair or something. Something will stick in their mind, and they might be more invested than they were before McGregor. So he's done a lot of favors for everybody. And, he's added so many terms and phrases to the sport of MMA. I mean, 50 G's, baby, and, who the F is that guy? They're embedded in MMA culture now, and they're McGregor lines, along with the Billy Strut and a lot of other things. He's changed the culture of MMA for the better, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and he did it he did it by fighting, and that's cool too. Like, you got the Jake Paul and the Logan Paul. I mean, he has more followers than those guys. I mean, he's bigger. He's a legit A-list celebrity in the world, and he did it through fighting. So